Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they had to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your hosts Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps. Really glad that you could join us today. And if you're listening to this show on Podomatic, you can also listen on iTunes. And Apple now has, I believe, Apple Podcasts, so you can also hear this on one of your devices. And so if you do, I hope that you will also give a review. 5 stars would be nice. If you do that, of course, it will always help the show to be found by more listeners if you review the show and have enjoyed it. So I hope that you'll do that. Also, you can come to womenentrepreneursSecrets.com and you can find a list of other platforms the show is on. So if you go to the podcast, in the menu bar, you'll see podcast and you click on that and you'll see a list of other platforms in that page. So that's another way for you to find out where there's other places the show is at. And I hope that you'll do that. And, also share that with your friends and on social media. That would be wonderful. So, we're going to get started with me introducing, my co-host. And Kerry Heaps is a publisher of Pageant Platform Magazine and the host of Pageant Platform Podcast. And she's the founder of Kerry Studio, a full-service pageant training company that offers training to women ages 16 plus all over the world. Our passion is to help women succeed in pageantry, build a successful platform, and use it to build a successful career or business after exiting pageantry. And she's a founder of Pitch Like a Bitch Media, an online resource to gain more media exposure, and author of Pitch Like a Bitch, Top 10 Tips to Pitch Like a Pro, published in December 2017, and the Create Your Own Media series for podcasting, publishing, and publicity. She has an extensive background in sales, networking, recruiting, and training. And she's a former model who specialized in trade show and print work, and experienced judge on the beauty pageant circuit. So you can find out more about Kerry at www.pitchlikeabitchmedia.com and pageant training at www.kerrystudio.com and the magazines at www.pageantplatformmag.com. So welcome to the show, Kerry.
Thank you, Deb. As always, it's such an honor to co-host with you and just so excited about our topic and all the cool things that have been going on. And thank you for reading out my new bio. And I hope maybe some people have noticed some of the changes and just excited to get back into that personal development industry.
Yes, that's really great. And I think there's a lot of good stuff that you could do. So really glad to share that with everyone. And what we'll be talking about today is about sales. And we're going to do that for a couple of shows. And this one we're kind of talking a bit about the online sales world, which if you are have an online business, I'm sure you've noticed a lot going on out here and what people are saying and claims they're making and different ways they're setting up funnels and all this kind of thing. So I really wanted to chat with Kerry about this, and she does have this expertise in sales and have her give her take on, how you could be better in terms of your online sales right now. So, just to kick it off, Kerry, how would you set up a sales process really online? What do you think that people should be doing?
Well, a couple of things really come to mind with that. I mean, I think it's definitely something that you have to put some time and effort into. Some of the things that you think are going to work, you're going to try them and they're not going to work. And we have to make changes, along the way. But a couple of things that come to mind. I mean, first and foremost, you need to look at your product or your service and figure out, okay, for example, if you have both, if you have a business that offers both, that maybe you have coaching or consulting, and then you have books or tapes or classes, online classes that you want people to take, or buy books or buy CDs or DVDs, whatever the case may be, where it kind of all goes hand in hand. You need to figure out what do you want people to go to first? Which is going to be your go-to product? Is it going to be the consulting? Is it going to be, here, buy my book first, and then, we'll filter you through and you can buy the CDs, and then you can, work your way up to coaching? Or do you want to come out the door with a big ticket item? So figure out which product or service you want to market first. And once you determine what that will be, always realize that all of the products that you have, it should be something where you should have it set up where, for example, if you do want to push your big ticket items, let's just say you coach people and you charge, I don't know, let's say $5,000 for your coaching. And most of the people who come to your site, you're finding they're not converting because that's too much money for them. You might want to, at that point during your sales process, say, well, we have a payment plan. And if that's still not working, then you should have other products that you should be immediately turning them on to say, hey, look, if that is out of your budget, this is what I would suggest. Start out buying, buy the book, and then, take these online classes and take them in this order. So that way you kind of know, that if the person starts out with that book and then, okay, they're going to go through that filtering process, they're going to do those classes one right after the other, it will take them longer, and it pulls out your revenue stream is going to be, extended to that point, but you don't completely lose them. I think where a lot of people make their mistake when they're coming up with a sales process, they skip this step number one. They just start, buy my book, buy my program, buy this, buy that, not realizing that not everything's going to be a good fit for everybody. Whether that's based on their need of what they're actually needing from you, or based on price that they may not be able to afford to work with you one-on-one. So, and even with some of the people who, which it sounds crazy, but you might have a program that could be, maybe your class is $197. Well, that still might be too much money for someone, but it doesn't mean that they can't turn into a client or come back later, to buy more, because a good rule of thumb is most of your sales are going to come from people who have bought from you before. And you want to set it up where you're not scaring them off with your high ticket items, that they need to know you have other options available. So I would say first and foremost, figure out what you're going to push first, what will be second, have almost a diagram chart to walk someone through and walk yourself through it. Say, you've got an imaginary prospect, that can't afford the training or that's too much for them. What product would you go to next? And draw almost like a diagram box of how that sale can play out, all the way down to maybe the cheapest, or not cheapest, but the least expensive product or service that you may have. And don't include the free webinar, the free email, the free stuff shouldn't even be on there, because free does not equate a sale. It's enough with the free stuff, which we'll probably talk about. But that would be the first two steps. And then I would say after that, once you figure that out, then at that point you need to figure out, okay, who would be best suited and what platforms do I have online that are best suited for my top product? Would that just be to market it on LinkedIn? To maybe write an article and have a link to that, or, set up a woohoo form, for more information, or for a free consultation. That's always a great way to bring in leads. For a free consultation, click here, have them go to your woohoo form. They fill it out, click submit, that goes directly to your inbox. So figure out which platforms you're going to market those on. The lower products might do well on Twitter and Facebook. You have to look at your audience and say, well, who's on here? Who would be better suited? Should I use my middle products, the, mid-priced products, should they go on, my Facebook business page or just on Twitter, or maybe I should put them on Instagram? You have to kind of look at your online audience and figure out which one would be better suited. And you might even want to try testing all of the products, because if you're seeing that you're getting a lot of traction on LinkedIn with your webinar, that's $197, then clearly that's going to be where you want to continue to promote that on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And then of course your email database, you want to market everything on there, not all at once, but, come up with a sales calendar of, when you're going to be pushing these things. Have some type of calendar so you've got something new to promote throughout the year. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a product you already have, think, well, in October, I'm going to do a big sale, half off my books or half off of my price, off of my class on Teachable. And I'll have a promo code, but I'm only going to do it in October. So always have something that you can promote and offer them at a discount, because people are savvy buyers. If they think they're getting a really good deal, you have a better chance of them signing up and buying that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Planning things out makes a lot more sense, I think.
And I think that's really where a lot of people drop the ball with the sales process. They might only have one item, or maybe they just, and I see this a lot, and I think you do too. We've talked about this, Deb, in the coaching industry, whether it's coaching for pageants, fitness, life, business, whatever, where everybody wants those clients that are paying them $5 to $10,000 a year, and they only want to really work with 5 or 10 of them. Well, that's all fine and good, but that's not always going to happen. You've got to have something else for the other people. There are tons of other people that still want to work with you in a different capacity. They just can't or won't spend that money right now. Right. So don't lose out on that business. And I see a lot of them that do that. They put it out there, sign up now and it's only, $9,500. Well, if somebody doesn't have that, that's immediately going to scare them off. Mm-hmm. You need to have different tiers, different levels, of how you're going to work with them. Mm-hmm. And sometimes too, you'll make more money in the long run if you start them out at the bottom. That's the way I have mine set up. If they go through the bottom and work their way up to the top, in essence, at the end of the day, I will make more money. I won't get it all at one time, but I will make more money. So those are things you got to consider, because, if somebody pays you at the beginning of the year, you have all these clients, well, and you don't really do that much marketing, the next year you're going to be in trouble.
That's true. I think that's an important point, because people don't really emphasize you, I guess, getting people into your funnel.
Funnel, pipeline, whatever you like to call it.
Right. They don't really emphasize what you have to do to bring them to that point, and doing all the online marketing and promotions, and people talking about setting up funnels, and usually they're talking about setting things up on Facebook, it seems. And there's kind of this gap where they're not really emphasizing, okay, how do you get hold of these people? They're just kind of assuming that you send this bot to Messenger or do this thing, and then you'll suddenly have all these people on your list. And it's just kind of ignoring that maybe sometimes it's not that easy to get people on the list who are going to be responsive. And that has to be connected to the sales process.
It does. I mean, definitely you have to, and that's the thing too. It's just like I have a couple of different lead generation things that we do, and I'm a big fan. If you're not sure how to get leads, one of the easiest ways to do it is to go to woofu.com. It is a online source. I mean, you only can have so many per month before they start charging you, but it's free to set up your account. And basically what they do is you have 3 forms that you can set up for free. And on those forms, you can put anything you want, name, address. If you're in the coaching industry, you could have check mark boxes, check all that apply. I'm interested in coaching for, and then just the different things that you specialize in. When's a good time to contact me? Morning, afternoon, evening, and what are your goals? You can get more information from a prospect, up to 10 questions. They click submit. That form, you set it up where it automatically goes to you. And so you check your inbox. There's a free lead right there. Mm-hmm. And I always suggest putting those in your blog post. Do you want a free consultation? Do you want, for a free checklist? And then that way you get their email address, you have their contact information, you can actually pick up the phone and call them. Mm-hmm. But you've got to get those leads coming in, and then you've got to find a way to, with that, I print them up. And I just keep them in a file folder. Mm-hmm. And I go back and I refer to them because those are what I consider gold leads. That person read the article, or they, read whatever I sent them. They want more information. They took the time to fill out the form. There's some level of interest there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have like a landing page on your site, I'm not saying they're bad, but, you get the landing page, most people are just putting in their email. You have no other way to contact them. You don't even know if that email address is real. I mean, and it's usually just like a split thing where they sign up, they get a free whatever, and so, they go into your funnel and you're automatically doing drip emails to them, and before you know it, they're going to be unsubscribing because they didn't want all that.
Right.
And that's the easiest thing for them to do to turn you off is to unsubscribe. Whereas if you have a form, you've got their email, you have their phone number, you have when they want to be called, what exactly do they want to talk about, you have a lot more information. Mm-hmm. So, there's just different ways of keeping track of things, but that's something like for a lead generation form to start getting leads in the door. I'm still, if you put a post on Facebook, now if somebody comments and says, yes, I'm interested, okay, fine, you can consider them a lead. Mm-hmm. That's different, but most people think, oh, well, I had 30 people like my post. Well, that's great, but that doesn't really help you. One thing that I find annoying, people talk about what's annoying on social media is when somebody says, hey, thanks for liking my post. By the way, I do blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Let's, what I mean? Not even really knowing if that's something. I may have just thought the picture was cute. I mean, who knows what I was thinking when I clicked like. So I don't think that's the best way of going about it. But you have to start somewhere, start getting better qualified leads to come through the door. And the minute that they express interest, which means that they have contacted you, those are the best ones.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Because I put something on my website that has that you can contact me for like a 20-minute session, and I will have them check off, what are you interested in? It's like, is it book coaching? Is it regular coaching? Is it just get an acquaintance call? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. So then there's some parameters around it, before we have a discussion. So I think that's a good way to do it, to create that kind of a system so that everything's in place and how you're capturing people and they're coming in. But just kind of relying on social media and likes it's not going to get the job done. Mm-hmm.
It's not, and there's so many people that think that. There's still, you have to, there is work involved in sales. I don't care what anybody says. And whether that's once you get that lead in, people think, oh, this is great. This is going to, well, you need to call, you need to follow up with them. You do need to have some type of, system, to keep track of these people, but you are going to have to do some type of sales. That's why it's called sales. I mean, if it happened without you being here, then there would be no need for you, right. Which you basically made yourself obsolete.
Right. And that may be something we could touch on for a bit. That's what drives me a little crazy about the whole automated sales funnel thing. Because there's the idea, it's not even necessarily like, well, I'm getting leads. It's I'm getting leads and making the sale, and I'm just doing something else while it works without me. And I'm like, well, then where are you in this? And we've touched on this before. Where are you in this process that you set up magically to do all this work without you? Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's something about that I just don't agree with.
Well, and I think where a lot of people get, again, when people talk about funnels, when people talk about, that's more or less to get leads. And mm-hmm. to me, in the sales process, getting leads is the beginning part of it, but the actual sales process doesn't start until you start selling. That's really where the line is drawn. So you can, get leads and do, where they talk about, that automated selling. It's not really selling. That's keeping the prospect interested. But at some point, you are going to have to reach out. You're going to have to close that deal.
Right.
You're going to have to ask them for money. And if you're afraid to ask them for money, afraid to ask them for the sale, then either you don't believe in your product or you're just not cut out for this. Go into another business. So I think that's where a lot of people get confused. And the way that people are selling that is confusing.
Yeah.
But logistically, again, I mean, how many times have you've done it before too, where you sign up, okay, here, download a free whatever. We've all done it. And it's like the biggest mistake. I mean, I have one right now where I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And it's like, I don't want to hurt the person's feelings because I'm friends with them, but I get an email twice a day.
Wow.
Twice a day.
That's
it goes to my junk file, but it's twice a day.
That's excessive.
And she's no closer to closing me than I am closing a screen door right now. I mean, it's not going to happen. But she's bought into that whole, and I'm sure they're a great company. I'm not trying to bash them, but the whole Infusionsoft, lead pages, this is how it's done, and you can sit on the beach, you don't have to do anything. And it's like, are you kidding me? Well, it's just like keeping track of your prospects. It doesn't have to be difficult. Like I said, what I do is I use the free Woofu form, or if somebody does send me an email or they respond back to the email list that they're on, because I'm old school. I've always said this, I'm old school. I take it, I print it out. It's on actual paper with ink, from a printer. And I stick it in what they used to have these, what they call a file folder. It opens right up. It's made out of cardboard. I write at the top, and I have it. No, it's an orange file. I'm looking at it right now. It says on the top, leads. Because I go through, that's how I keep track of mine. Now, like I said, there's other people, they buy into Infusionsoft, which is a couple $100s a month from, the people I know that use it. They have the Infusionsoft, they have, or Zoho, Salesforce, they have all these things where everything's automated. The person signs up on the website and, just get them to your website, get them to your website, get them to your website. And they sign up for the free email or the free gift or for whatever. And then as soon as they do that, then they get their free gift in the email. And then the next day we send them an email, and then we send them another one in a week, and then we send them 2 more the following week, and then the following week we send them 3, and we space it out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the week after that we just go back to 1, and then we send them nothing the following week, and then the following week we send them 2 more.
Oh my God.
I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I asked somebody one time, this to kind of give you an idea of why I don't do it that way. I asked somebody, I said, that's interesting. I said, how many people do you have on your email list? Oh, well, we've accumulated like 10,000 emails that are the people that opted in. And I'm like, really? 10,000? That's amazing. I said, so out of those 10,000, I said, how many of them have converted or have become clients? Oh, well, we don't have anybody yet. And I said, okay. I'm like, well, how many people do you have phone conversation? How many people do you have actual conversations with? Not through email, but like picking up the phone or doing a Zoom call. Oh, well, I don't really do that. I mean, that's just not part of the process. That's just not how this is done. You don't get it. It's not done that way. I said, but what I'm saying is if you've got that many people and you haven't closed anybody, maybe it would be, I'm going to do a video next week and we're going to send them out this video. And I mean, I'm like, do you know what your opt-out is at this point? And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, how many people have opted out of these, like after a month? And they were like, that's a good question. I'm like, well, you might want to check on that. Because my guess is either he has a very low open rate or it's a very high opt-out rate.
Right.
And like I said, I'm not saying that he's not going to get any sales. I mean, have I gotten sales where I've never spoken to them and boom, all of a sudden, boom, there's a sale from somebody I've never met before? Sure. But I can count on one hand how many times that's happened. You can't make a living that way. It's just not going to happen.
So why do you think using the phone is so important?
Going back to what we've just been talking about, it's an old school, I always say old school, and I don't know why I say that, but it's an old school method that still works. Like I said, I mean, I pull out my prospects and I can pull out this folder. Right now in my prospects, the ones that I've been calling, I think I have 30 or 40 in here. And the reason this helps is, number one, it shows these people that you're a real person, that there's somebody behind that website, there's somebody behind, that they can talk to, that they can call. It's a real person. Nothing against our great folks over in India. It's not that, when they call to order, it's going to go to a call center overseas, or somebody that does not, English is their second language, or, which can be a huge turnoff. And a lot of people won't buy from you if they encompass that. So they know you're a real person. You can talk to them and find out what exactly is going on with you. What's your issue? What's your problem? I'll give you a great example. Last year, I had, it was for pageant training, and I had someone who filled out the form, and I had been calling them. I left probably 3 or 4 messages over, 4 or 5 week time period. Finally, I called one day and I got the person on the phone, and I just told her, I said, you filled out one of our forms. You had an interest in some pageant training. What pageant system are you going to be competing in that's coming up? And she said, gosh, she said, she said, that was just kind of she said, honestly, I've chickened out about the whole thing. I've never competed before. I don't think I really want to. The more I've thought about it, I just don't feel like it's going to be a good fit for me. And I'm like, oh, I can totally understand that. I said, especially if you've never done it before. And, we just kind of had a conversation, and, I said, what made you decide to even look at this? I said, do you have friends? Do you have family members? And this is me prodding around for referrals at this point. And I said, did you have anybody? And she said, well, no, not really. She said, it was just kind of a fluke thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, if anything ever happens in the future, I said, feel free to reach out. I said, would you like me to put you on our email list just so you can, we usually send that out once or twice a month. And she said, yeah, that would be fine. Just in case. She said, I don't think I'm going to change my mind, but just in case. But it gave me an opportunity to find out, okay, it was a fluke thing that she filled out. That happens a lot too, when you have opt-ins or things like that. But when I knew she wasn't going to be a good prospect, I immediately said, well, what kind of got you interested? Is there a friend that competes? Or because if she had a friend or a family member that competed, I would have been like, oh, really? Just, do they work with do they do any coaching? And, that way I could have easily gotten that person's name and phone number and called that person and said, hey, I got your name and number from so-and-so, and is it a good time to talk? So you always want to, call them, because even if they're not interested right now, they might know some people. Whenever you get people on the phone, you need to find out exactly what's going on with them and come up with a plan that's catered to them. If you can help them. And then, again, if it's something that's not, somebody's no longer interested, or right now isn't the right time, you should immediately be talking to them about who do they know, and do it in a good way. You have to figure out what's going to be good for you. And that's what I do in my industry. I'm like, well, what got you interested in pageantry? Do you have a friend or a family member that competes? You always want to open up the door for referrals at that point, and never completely close the door. Just because she's not interested now doesn't mean she doesn't think about it in a year from now, and that could be a client for me. But you never want to completely close the door. And then, of course, just ask, hey, would you like to stay on our mailing list? Would you like to, get emails? And if they say no, then, to take them off and move on. But I would have never found that out had I not picked up the phone and called her.
Right.
I would have never found that out. I could have stuck her through 1,001 funnels and sent her all kinds of free information, and it would have turned into nothing. Right. So and another thing people need to consider about, another reason why the phone is good is because you're going to find all that information out. And at some point, if you're going to coach these people and you're too afraid to pick up the phone and call them, you're not going to be able to coach them. I mean, this. I mean, it's kind of like, if you're too afraid to do that, what happens if, hey, this person, you can put them on the right path, but you're going to have to be firm and almost be strict with them if you can't even pick up the phone and talk to them. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. You're going to have to talk to them and perform your duties as agreed. So, That's so right. And the phone is a part of that. And whether you want to call it a Zoom call, Skype call, calling them on the cell phone, call them on your landline, call them from a payphone if they still have any of those. But still, you got to pick up the phone and call them. You will find out so much more. You have no idea. So much more.
I think that the emphasizing this automated thing is, in a way, giving comfort to people who don't want to talk to people because they're reluctant. They feel afraid. They don't really know about selling. And it seems safer to just have this thing running and believe that all I have to do is get the money from it at the end. I don't have to really talk or interact with people at all. So there's something reassuring about that for people who don't know the sales process, or don't understand or are intimidated by it. Mm-hmm. I definitely think so. But once you have been out here and have interacted with people, understand what it is, either as a buyer, as a seller, learn some things, you realize that doesn't really work very well. Of course, depending on your business. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but if you have a business that's specialized, like for instance, I kind of restarted my book coaching. So I have something on my website to talk to people, and I talked to a couple of people. And my thing is, I want to know what it is that your project is, and what do you want, and what are your goals. I don't have a cookie cutter process or cookie cutter program that I'm saying, well, you must fit into this, this, and this. It's because each person's goals are different. So I have to talk to you to find out if I can even solve your problem. Maybe I'm not the right person for you. I'm not going to know that until we have a conversation. Or maybe your ideas about publishing a book are more about kind of a dream idea rather than something you're ready to actually do.
And a lot of people too, not to interrupt you, Deb, but a lot of people think like during that process, just like what you're talking about, if they're like, well, instead of calling them, I'll email them. Well, communicating all of that in email is still going to be difficult. You're still going to be missing talking points, especially like everything that you just said about your potential client. That could also come across in a negative way in an email. Yeah. When they read it, they're like, oh, this person seems like they're really hard to work with. And it's not that you're hard to work with. It's just you're trying to figure out, is this the right fit, or do I need to refer you to someone else?
Yeah.
You still have to get to that point where you're going to talk to your prospect.
We'll be right back after this short break. This is Women Entrepreneurs Radio, available on dbccoach.podomatic.com and iTunes. I can compare that to what I'm doing with my writing. Recently, I have been on a couple of websites that you can do book giveaways. Mm-hmm. And as we've talked about free before, so I was kind of like, okay, is this really going to lead to anything? And I was kind of skeptical, but I said, okay, let me try this out. And actually there's two main ones right now that are, I think most people are working with, at least in terms of fiction. They seem to be more in fiction than nonfiction. But I have to do my part. I have to interact, and maybe in this case I'm not calling them, but I am interacting with them in a way to introduce myself and my work that they could see me as an individual as opposed to one of maybe thousands of not hundreds of thousands of authors out here who may be writing in these genres. Mm-hmm. So there's a way also to do that, even if you're online, and try to differentiate yourself and try to have a process to bring people in and treat them like, say thank you. I say thank you to them. I don't just make assumptions and send them 1,000 emails. I say thanks for being on the list. I try not to email them too much. I think it's important to look at folks as individuals who they're giving you permission to contact them, not just as a herd of people you're just counting off. I'm moving them to the funnel and getting paid, but what are they getting from you? What are you offering to them as clients? I think in some cases when you're in the online world, that kind of gets lost, and maybe that's part of my issue with it. Mm-hmm. That we're not really looking at them as people we're trying to serve in some way or solve their problem. It's just how I can get in the funnel and then get to the beach.
We've called it this before. It's a cookie cutter process, and you can't, we're not cookies. Like I've said before, we're not cookies. So that's why it doesn't work. That's why you see a lot of people who go through a lot of these programs, and at the end of the day, they spend a lot of money, they invest a lot of time, and they still have the same issue,
Yeah.
And I'm all for, if there's, and if you feel like you do have something, it goes back to what we said before, during your sales process, if you do have a low cost item that could be helpful to everyone, great, then that can be your cookie cutter thing that you can put through the funnel and whatever else you want to do. Send them 900 emails. I mean, use it for something that's inexpensive, something that's like basic principle. But for the more intense you get, the more your price increases, the more value that you add to them, it's going to have to mesh with your client. You're going to have to, there's going to be certain steps you're going to want to take out. There's going to be certain things that you're going to have to do that is going to be really just, only for your client. It's not going to really apply to anybody else. So you're going to have to go through whatever. It's just like what I do. We have certain emails that are already set up, like our template, and I take the template and I change it around, and I usually write another paragraph or two that's going to be secular to my client, that particular client. This is why this is going to work for you. This is some of the things that we need to do. It's just like when I train people one-on-one with the pageants, training for Miss America or training for Miss USA or even the state pageant for that is going to be different than training for the Sunburst Beauty pageant, because it's a totally different ball game. So you have to, change what you would do and how you're going to work with them and the things that apply to what they're trying to accomplish. And, that's just, and you're right. A lot of people think that you can take the human element out of this, and you can't. I mean, think about it. Would you, and I asked myself this question too, would I pay someone $5,000 that I'm never going to be able to speak to? That really isn't, I'm not going to be able to sit down and explain, this is the issue. Thinking that they're going to really understand where I'm at without even talking to me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Well, that's a good point. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about, is that if you're asking for this money, but you've never talked to this person, that's kind of hard to do, to make that kind of commitment, and the person doesn't even really know who you are. And also I think a lot of that is because a lot of the people selling these programs are telling you how to do something as opposed to actually doing it. And I'm not saying that to belittle them, but I'm saying a person who's teaching you how to do, how to have an online business is not the same person who's teaching a client how to do something. They're instructing you how to do this, and I guess maybe that's why there's that sense of detachment from the end result. But the people who teach you how to do something are always going to make more money. In my opinion.
That's true. It goes back to the old adage, those who can't teach.
Right.
I mean, yeah. And again, these are all things that can be answered by having an actual verbal conversation with your prospect. And, the only way that's going to happen is through Skype, Zoom, landline, cell phone. You have to get them on the phone and find out exactly what's going on.
I think
people talk about, cold calling's dead. You don't need your phone anymore. Not true. If anything, I think you need it more now today than you did 20 years ago.
And why do you think that?
I think that because of all of the online funnels and sign up for our free crap and sign up for this and we'll give you that. And, and we'll filter them through the sales funnel, and they'll get all these emails. And at the end of the day, what comes out at the bottom is going to be sales. And, there's too much of that going on. There's too much noise. And you need to make some different noise, and that's making their phone ring, because they're getting more emails than they are phone calls, contrary to what people think. Whether you're calling a business or calling a individual,
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely getting more emails. So set yourself apart. You have to set yourself apart now more than ever. That's usually done through media coverage, and it's done through picking up the phone.
Do you think that, like, when you have cold calling and warm leads, I mean, is it just a different way of working with both sides of the coin, or do you think one is better to work than the other?
I've made sales off of, leads that we've never called before, and I've actually had better luck with those, to be honest. Rather than people filling out forms. I mean, those are still good because clearly there's an interest, but I've found that, you sometimes if you can catch people, and this is the only way you're going to be able to do it is by picking up the phone and calling them, by just, maybe purchasing a list or putting a list together. Let's just say, I'll use an example here. Pick a category, Deb. Real estate, doctor's office, whatever. Pick a category.
Real estate. Let's go with
Okay.
that.
All right. Let's just say real estate. So let's just say you are a real estate agent and you've got, like maybe 10 houses that you're looking to unload. You need to lease them or whatever. So let's just say you go to an event where you're able to, talk to different people that, are in the area that might be looking, and they come up to your table and they're talking and they fill out the form. So you've got some warm leads there because you've already talked to them. Mm-hmm. And let's just say the next day you're like, you know what? There's an apartment community. Now, this is still cold calling, but it's doing it in person rather than on the phone. Mm-hmm. There's an apartment community that's within, 5 miles from where all these homes are for sale. And you're thinking to yourself, you know what? I have some door hangers here. I'm just going to, go into this community. It's not, it's not gated. It's still a fairly nice community. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to, put some door knockers on, hang them on the doors and maybe talk to some of these people. So you pull in, you park your car and you get out, and it's still scary because the worst case scenario, they'll tell you to leave. Don't come back here again. So you're handing out the doorknob, you're putting them on all the different doorknobs. And let's just say some of the people hear something and they come to the door and you start talking to them and saying, hey, was in the neighborhood today. The reason I'm handing these out is because I've got, 10 houses that are within 5 miles of here and some really nice subdivisions that I'm looking to sell. And I don't know how many people that live here that might be saving up for a home. Well, you might start talking to one of these people and they're like, well, as a matter of fact, I would love to, my lease is up for renewal, but I don't know if I would be able to qualify to buy a home right now, or, if I'm why don't you come by the office and let's talk? So see, here it is. Here's a person, okay, by saying that, there's a person who probably has not been online looking. They're probably not posting on Facebook, hey, I'm thinking about buying, because they don't know if they have enough money, if they can qualify to buy a house. So they could be a good prospect. They could not be, or they might need another 6 months, or they might have to look at something cheaper or do a lease to purchase at that point. So there's somebody who is a good prospect who's willing to talk to you. They're going to make an appointment. They're going to come in your office tomorrow. They want to come look at one of the houses. Let's run a credit report. Let's get you in, get you involved with a mortgage broker. So there's somebody right off the bat that really wasn't, they're kind of looking. There's a lot of people that are in that category of kind of looking, but they're not looking. The idea is floating around in their head, but they're not going to come out and say it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And those people are not online looking.
Right. That's a good
and
point.
I find a lot of the people who are online looking and are filling out these forms, a lot of them are, they're in the market now. But they're talking to other people, believe me. They're shopping around. Price is going to be an issue. They're going to be comparing you. Do they like you better than they like the other person? So if you can catch people in that cold market, they can convert a lot easier because you don't have the outside interference of them looking at other people or looking and saying, okay, well, maybe I can get a half a point cheaper if I go through, Schmooey's real estate service. So you don't have that. So that person could, hand out like maybe, put 20, door hangers on there. And, just the little thing that hangs on the doorknob, and then initially talk to 5 people that 3 of them are like, hey, yeah, I'd like to go take a look at that house. And I've thought about it, but, I just don't know yet, or I have another 6 months left on my lease, or, so it's just a great way to get in front of potential prospects. But again, it's scary. So a lot of people don't like to do it. They're afraid they're going to be told to leave or yelled at. And that can happen just as easily on the phone too.
Right.
But when we talk of cold prospecting, that can happen on the phone or it can happen in person. You can go out. I did it for years when I was in the staffing industry. I'd pick an office park, I'd start at one end and end the day on the other side of the office park, and have my information in 50 different businesses' hands, and 2 or 3 of them that are like, hey, I'm glad you stopped by. We're actually looking at maybe hiring a few more people, or somebody might say, yeah, I'm actually looking, and it's to replace the girl you just talked to. It's like, so yeah. So you find that you get those opportunities, and if you can get, there's something psychological when people talk to you, or when they talk to you one-on-one, or they see you in person and talk to you one-on-one, that changes the dynamics of the sales process. Yeah, especially when they're not really looking, or it's in the back of their head, but they're not actively looking yet.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's something for people to keep in mind, and also something we may also discuss in our next sales conversation. I just wanted to ask a couple more things, your take on affiliates, since we're talking about the online world. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a lot of people, clearly, that have made really good money off of affiliate marketing. The Barefoot executive, Kerry somebody.
I can't remember her last name.
Kerry, I want to call her Kerry Barefoot, but that's not the right name. But she wrote the book, The Barefoot Executive. She apparently she makes an excellent living off of affiliate marketing. So there are people who have done it, but it does take time. I think that if you're doing it, I think as a complementing product or service, I think that's a good way to go. I have not had good luck with it. I have not had the best of luck with, doing, where people will do seminars and you're part of the seminar and it's like, oh, well, you get a percentage off of every ticket that's sold. You do a lot of work and wind up getting nothing or getting under $50. It's just, to me, it has not been worth it. So I think people have to look at it and say, hey, yeah, I think this would be a good thing. I think you really have to look at it and say, will my tribe or the people that I market to really benefit from this, number one? And if you really feel that they will, I think you need to sell it to them and poise your emails and your posts to say, hey, if you put in this code, you're going to get a discount. This could help people, and explain why you feel this is a good fit for them. And
yes, sorry, I just want to jump. It's Kerry Wilkerson.
Wilkerson. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I wanted to say Kerry Barefoot. I'm like, I know that's not her name,
right?
But that's how I know her, or know of her, I should say. I've never had the pleasure of meeting her, but there are people who are able to do that, and I think that's what she wrote her book about. The Barefoot Executive is all about affiliate marketing. So I think there's ways that you can do it, but again, I think people have to realize it doesn't happen overnight with affiliate marketing. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort. You're going to have to write a lot of posts, a lot of different articles. I mean, it's very time intensive. And me personally, I would rather put the time and energy into my own business rather than promoting someone else's. That's just me. But again, not saying that it's a bad thing. Me personally, though, wouldn't be the route that I would take. What are your thoughts on it? I mean, have you done much affiliate stuff, or?
I did back in the day, when the, say Allie Brown and those folks who were doing all those kinds of, launches all the time. And, I was, getting some cash out of it, definitely not in the thousands, but I was, getting some regular, stuff out of it. And I'm not sure if it was SEO or whatever changed, or maybe the way when they started to go to some different platforms that were counting clicks a little differently, that really dropped off. Then I looked at some things to add to the blog because, affiliate marketing with blogs. And what I found from that was, I've got 1 or 2 things, but I found that very disappointing because people come to the blog chances are they're not there to click on a lot of stuff. I mean, click rates are not high. Even if you send an email, your click rate is going to be less than an open rate is. It's not the same. People who open something and read it aren't necessarily going to click. And it's the same thing when you go to a blog. And I say, well, how many times do I actually click on things in the blog? And I visit someone's blog. Maybe I may click on to read an article, but I'm not necessarily clicking on their products in the sidebar. Unless there's something that jumps out at me. So I find, I really agree with what you're saying. It takes a lot of marketing and promotion of these products. You can't just put links there and think, oh, that's all I have to do. You have to put the work into it. And people do make money from it, but you got to put the work into it, into selling these other folks' products. That's something to do. And I didn't really feel like that was something I wanted to put my energy into, because I had things of my own to sell. So I agree with you there. But it's one of those things I think that you can get something out of, but you have to roll up your sleeves and really push it as though you were pushing something of your own. Is my feeling about that. It's not as simple as, but everything online is sold as being simple. Do you feel that way, Kerry?
Well, it's just, again, if I see one more, it's like, oh, please get this stuff out of my feed. You scroll through Facebook and you see the person sitting on the beach, or they're at the amusement park, or they're climbing a mountain and they're still making money, and and it's not just me. I mean, if you look the next time you're online, look at some of these ads, and you can see the comments of what some people are saying, and it gets to the point with some of them, it's just the jokes that people are making. I mean, people are catching on.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think they're really getting that, hey, this is not a good thing. I mean, there's just so many different programs. It's just like online content marketing, SEO. There's so much information out there. You could get it all for free online and read if you really wanted to learn about that and take the time to do it. I personally do not have the patience for it anymore. I have ran one Facebook ad, and I think we had talked about that. I ran one Facebook ad for $5, and I will tell you that the post, same exact post, okay, I got 500 views and one website click is what I paid for. Now, that exact same post, I took the liberty myself to post it in over 2 pages that I manage, and I think it was 25 different groups on Facebook. And I garnered over, I think last time I checked, it was like 2,800 views, and I've had 15 or 16 website clicks with it. And I didn't have to pay for that. So
that tells you something right there, doesn't it?
Exactly. And what's also interesting, that now that we're talking about this, I actually had a conversation with someone who is very high up in a direct sales company, and we were talking about Facebook ads. And I said, just out of curiosity, because they told me, they said, we have, I think they said 17 or 18,000 people that are fans on their Facebook page, that like their page. And they have gotten some leads through their Facebook advertisements. And I asked them, I said, just out of curiosity, do you mind me, if it's okay, I said, if you're not comfortable answering the question, you don't have to, but I'm just curious, how much have you paid for ads? Now, again, keep in mind this person's very high up in a network marketing company. They're bringing in between 20, 30 grand a month, okay, just in money alone. So they said overall they've spent 10 or 11,000 or between 10 and 11,000 on their Facebook ads. And that was mostly to get likes on their fan page. Okay. And a few of them were advertisements for, if you thought about working from home, and they get people that, it takes them to their site, they fill out a form. So they were able to get some people. And I think they ran another ad about an event that they were doing locally, but it was mostly used to get likes on their page. So so of course that person clearly had the money, and they said they paid that out over, I think, like a 6-month time period. So basically, let's just say, to make math easy for me, let's just say it was 12 grand over 6 months. That's 2 grand a month to get the likes on the page and to run 2 ads.
Yeah. From what I understand, if you're going to make that kind of money with ads, you're spending that kind of money.
Yeah. So it kind of goes hand in hand. It's still, to me, again, now I have another person that I have been, talking with who has, and hopefully she'll come on your show at some point, but without going into too much detail, this person has got over, I think, 80,000 likes on one of their fan pages, and they built it all organically and high interaction.
Yeah, that's what you really have to do.
So it's really logistically that organically you're not paying for anything. You're going to be building it yourself. You're putting in time and effort, but you're actually going to get better results in the long run. And like I said, just doing a $5 ad, I thought I'll never do that again. That was just insane. And then I still get what's really funny is it's like one of my higher posts that I have right now that's got like 1,800 views. Facebook sent me a little thing. Oh, boost this post to reach 2,500 people. Well, I've already reached 2,500 people. And I did it without paying you.
Oh, no.
So it's like, I think I'll pass.
Yeah, they don't like that, I'm sure.
Yeah. But like I said, same post. Shared it in 20 some odd groups in 2 different pages, and that only took like maybe 10 minutes to do total to share. And I guess maybe it took less than that, 10 minutes. So 10 minutes of my time, I get 2,800, however many likes it was, or views of that post, and 15 or 16 website clicks. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
and I didn't pay for that.
Yeah, how about that? How about that? I think marketing and sales has just gotten very blurry online because people just figure, well, I got to pay for everything, or I'll just pay Facebook and then I'll magically get whatever they think they're going to get. And not really looking at how they're setting the system up and who they're getting and how much money will they really have to invest to keep that going. Because you just don't invest once and then that's it. You got to keep doing that. And doing more and more and more.
And everyone that I have spoken with, I talked to another person who's a coach, and I think she told me she spends about $10,000 a month.
Yeah,
that's a month.
Yeah,
but
I've
she's making
similar things.
Yeah, she's making a lot of money. I mean, she's I think probably in the 50 to 60,000 range per month, what she's making, but that's what she pays every month, and so
I think people need to know what the truth of it is. It's not so simple. To get in front of a lot of those people, that means making a major investment.
I just posted something on Facebook. It's just so silly. Like I can post about our magazine. I can post, hey, did you get the latest issue? It's free to read online. And, I can get a few people that like that post, but I posted something about this pig that was rescued from a slaughterhouse, and the pig can actually paint, and the person who rescued him sells the pig's paintings for about $2,000 or $4,000. It was a cute little video and it shows the pig painting, and I'm like, this is why pigs are awesome. And I've had a ton of people like, and some people comment on it, so it's kind of like, okay, so it's more the silly stuff that you post. I mean, people gravitate to that. I mean, they want to laugh. They want to have something that will brighten their day. And
the pig is painting.
The pig, I mean, I go on my page and see. I mean, it's the cutest thing.
Oh my God.
Anytime I post anything about a pig, because people know I love potbelly pigs. So anytime I post something about that, I mean, people go nuts. Or if I post, something really funny or like a little saying or something, or even like a vegan recipe, people love that stuff. And, but like I said, I mean, you could do that. And, I think if you can integrate some kind of humor, you're probably going to get more people. But again, I think paying for it is just not the right way to go. I think I actually got less interaction by paying for it. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's very interesting. But then I've heard things about people paying for boosted posts, and then, there's people who are boosting, like cooking on posts, like they have those click farms, and you can actually get less interaction because they're just clicking. They're never coming back to the page. And then I think you can kind of get penalized for that because you've got these people following you, but they never really do anything. So like Instagram, that I just opened account for my coaching, and I post like quotes and make certain observations, and people are like responsive. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting, because I'm not really planning this out with all these beautiful things. I mean, I'm getting pretty quote posts, but I'm not spending all this money on all these mock-ups and whatnot. I realize that, well, a lot of those people who are following me or maybe potential clients for, like book coaching, consulting, or something like that, or one of my workshops that I'm going to put on the online class, because, that a lot of them are on there and they respond to those kind of positive messages. So you kind of look at the platform you're on and what you're doing and who's responding to you, who you're reaching, and you've got to kind of look and see what are the best places you can be and how you can have some interaction, like you're saying. The interaction, I think, in the long run is really what's going to help you, as opposed to just having likes. Mm-hmm. And there are people who don't interact with you or will never buy anything from you. Just one more question, because I know we've kind of covered this topic, but also as far as online, when people talk about copy converting people, what is your take on that?
It's definitely important. I think, and I struggle with this too. It's just like with my blog. I kind of made a commitment to myself. Okay, I need to do 3 blog post a week, a minimum of 3, because clearly, again, writing a blog post and then putting at the end, are you interested in pageant training? Don't have a pageant coach, not sure if it's right for you. Click here to, for a free consultation. You always want to have something in there that will capture their information. If you're going to be giving anything away for free, it should be your blog post. It should all be in your blog. I find that, when you have a good, robust set of information that's going to help you, you can refer people to your blog, and if they read through it and they like what they see or they want more information, they can fill out the form. I am dead set against the people who give away, their classes for free, or they give away, download this free product. You should be selling that content. What's in your blog, that content should be free, because people are, clearly the more information you have, the more information that's, is going to pop up in the search engines, and that's what you want. I mean, I find, especially with the pageant industry, if you type in pageant training or, creating your pageant platform, there's 2 or 3 people's websites that pop up, and it's stuff from their blog, because mm-hmm. they have flooded, and again, that's benefiting them. You mm-hmm. want to do most of your writing, and your content needs to be for you. So getting people, I mean, it does help. I mean, my accountability partner and I, the last meeting that we had at the end of the year, one of her goals was to write 3 blog posts a week. Mm-hmm. And by doing that within a 6-month time period, she's creeping up in the search engines on certain topics that she coaches on. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want. So I think, creating that content and the copy, it's stuff that needs to be for your blog, and you need to, make sure that you just get as much content in there as possible, and it should be directing people back to your site, and you should always, and that's something that she taught me, is she said every single blog post you do, at the end you need to have it needs to be standard. Copy and paste, do you want more information, free consultation, whatever it is, copy and paste it and have a link in there, so that goes, at the end of reading it, they look at that and they can fill out the form. All they have to do is click on it. Mm-hmm. And that way, mm-hmm. that you're going to get their information. It generates leads for you.
And we probably have exhausted this online sales topic, because I think it continues to evolve. And, this is something that will be, I'm sure, having different comments about.
It's kind of like the flu vaccine, Deb. We've had H2N2, now we have H3N2, and next year there'll be H4N2. Because it just mutates, and I think online sales, online marketing is going to be the same way. It's going to be an ongoing mutation.
That's very
unfortunately.
True.
It's a very crude but surprisingly timely topic as well.
Yes, it is.
It is.
So I'm really glad that we could have these talks. And everyone, we're going to have a part 2, which I'm guessing, more than likely will be posted after this one is. So if it's not up yet, then it will be. And you can kind of get some ideas about the sales process if you are mostly, an offline person, because there's some things there to think about as well. Mm-hmm. So, once again, it's Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey and Kerry Heaps. And we will see you again next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dvcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.